Hello, degenerates, and actually, welcome back to a rather depressing episode today. As you guys have probably heard the news all over Smash Twitter going around, is that we have kind of uncovered a lot of the things that have been going on the back end of all these Super Smash Brothers tournaments, and particularly with what Nintendo has been doing to meddle with the several events that have been going out there, and with other more serious allegations that are going around. Basically, there was an anonymous user that went around and posted a story compiling all the stories that they've heard about various things that have come to light or just come to them, and like officially gave the stories that were not really ever under an NDA, but just kind of were hush hush and thrown under the rug, just in hopes that something good would turn out from Nintendo eventually. And of course, we're at this point where that doesn't seem to be the case, and especially with the recent rulings that they've had with the Big House, it's just not going to happen at this point. So pretty much everybody has kind of taken to arms and have just decided, let's call out Nintendo. And at this point, I think I should probably use my voice for that as well. Definitely, I am a channel on the smaller sides of things, but definitely, there's a lot of things in my personal life that wouldn't have happened if the esports scene wasn't around here, particularly for Smash. And I definitely wouldn't be here in front of you guys today doing this type of content to begin with, if it wasn't for the scene. Nor would I probably have ever gone to Japan and met so many wonderful people over there too. So I really owe a lot to the scene, and I do feel like I should use my part to kind of specifically talk about some points here. I think most people watching this channel probably already know the circumstances and how it really does impact us, but just in case you want to use this video to send to somebody that kind of doesn't understand the whole reasons why everyone's so upset and why this hashtag is trending, especially if you guys are fans and you have looked at the actual hashtag itself or people responding to people with the Safe Smash hashtag, there's definitely a lot of people just going out there and defending a Nintendo outright, or they're just kind of confused, or they're just Nintendo drones defending the crap out of Nintendo and all that stuff. And I think I would like to just kind of shed some light on my perspective on all of this, and just kind of what are the facts of the matter and what has been the history of Nintendo so far, just from all these different things that we've had. All of this does come from backup that I have just seen from various sources, just kind of confirming all these different things as well. A lot of TOs have kind of come out and said it. Like I remember Chia threw out her thing about, especially on the Project M side of thing. Smash Caps was the first one to really talk about that. She has a different tag now though. Then also Hungrybox confirmed some of these things as well, because he knew some things on the back end. And then of course the guy that runs the Big House, Juggle Rob, he's done some interviews as well to help kind of clarify some of the issues that went on with Big House. So I'll kind of break down the most important parts and takeaways, and just kind of how it overall is affecting just everybody in the community. And lastly, I'll touch upon how that's going to affect myself in terms of how I'm going to carry this channel going forward from here. So first of all, it's no surprise that that Smash scene in general has been very grassroots, and they've been trying to kick off an esports scene for a very, 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 very long time. If you go back and you watch the Smash documentary, or if you haven't, please do, it's really good. It kind of highlights that whole very beginning period. So while the game came out, there wasn't really a competitive scene per se. People were playing it, and then it was kind of around like the 04, 05, from what I remember, is when there started to be like inklings of competitive scenes going around. Like that's when Smash Boards was formed. Everyone was talking on there, and all these different coast rivalries, and then eventually like a formal rule set came out. And that was like the kind of thing that MLG ended up using at the end of the day. So I believe it was like with those beginning MLG tournaments way back before in the early 2000s. That's when one of the first signs of Nintendo stepping in and just making sure that nothing happened. The events happened, so there was a tournament and everything. However, the Smash tournament was not allowed to be broadcast because Nintendo didn't want that to happen. So right there, that was one cut to it there immediately. And if MLG wanted to do anything else with them in the future, it was kind of like more of a gray matter, since they couldn't really get any like televising rights for it and all that stuff. So kind of sort of stopped in the track of just really growing its market appeal there, and just bringing in a lot more players into the series itself. The next time that we had a big sign of Nintendo really, really messing with it was when MLG did pick up Brawl. And when they did it, I believe it was like in 2010, Nintendo once again cut the broadcasting rights again to it. So basically that cut off more eyes and more people potentially going and helping to grow the whole entire industry from there. After that, the next big thing that happened was in 2013 with Evo. So I believe MLG did want to do a circuit with Smash, but just because of like those different things with the broadcasting and all this stuff, it didn't happen. But they will come again later on. But then 2013 happened with Evo, where Brawl kind of fell out of favor for like the majority of the competitive players. Well, there was still a scene, definitely was dwindled down at that point, and Melee was on the running to be the next game to be a part of Evo 2013. There was a whole donation drive for charity there. They raised $100,000, so they solidified the final spot. However, just like those previous two MLG events, Nintendo stepped in and said, "Hey, you can't broadcast this." But the biggest difference between this time versus the other previous times is Twitch was a big thing at this point. So everybody there was actively watching this in a very participating manner because of the internet. And once word got out that that wasn't going to work, especially since they canceled a charity event to at least prevent that from streaming, it was still able to be held, but they couldn't stream it. Enough backlash came from that. It was also in the Wii U era where Nintendo was not in a good light and they just were not doing good as a business overall. They were able to kind of throw enough media attention at it that they eventually overturned their decision within 24 hours, and then they were allowed to broadcast a tournament there. But, ever since that point, there's just been a lot of open hostility towards the scene. Then we get to next year in 2014, where Apex is going on. Project M is really booming, so I think that one tournament went fine. It was Project M in 2014 had the largest attendance at the time in terms for tournaments. Like, I think out of any Smash tournament, that one had the biggest attendance out of all of them, just because it was a very unique game that bridged the gap between Brawl and Melee. So it was a really cool player base, and it was honestly a really cool meta. That's actually when I got into the scene. And then Apex 2015 came around, and when that happened, while Nintendo never sent Project M a cease and desist letter, Twitch was Twitch was trying to work with Nintendo to get a circuit started. So then that way they could, have like all these pop bonuses and other things. And also at that event too, they did have Smash 4 was also a thing at that time. So it was going to be a Smash circuit that was going to focus specifically on Smash 4 and Melee. And basically Nintendo kept working with them, and they sent people to say like, hey, don't run Project M, and don't run any other mods. So basically that once that happened, that killed off all the PM attendees that would attend those tournaments and all that stuff. And that was the main reason why we didn't see Project M at Apex 2015. So from there, they meddled with the scene again by taking away a huge portion that was only there really for Project M. And with those talks about the circuit, they never came to fruition. Basically, they delayed it off. Then they got written signed work for it to work. They got like a written statement to say like, okay, we can do this. But unfortunately, Nintendo never gave them their blessings to actually start the thing. So then when they waited long enough, Smash Ultimate was going to be announced that year. And with that, then they said, hey, because Smash Ultimate was just announced now, there's no longer a reason for us to do the circuit. And basically they say you need to wait to run a circuit with Ultimate just to see what the reception is. But obviously it's been good. So even that's just kind of crazy. And not only was there that Twitch circuit, but then HTC was planning to do a circuit. E-League was planning to do a circuit. And all of those got denied just outright. And these would have been circuits that would have had large prize pools to it, where, it would have enticed more teams to sign up Smash players, so that way the teams themselves could actually make money off the circuit. So there's a reason to advertise it, especially if E-League became a part of it. That would have been nationally televised Smash events that would have just gone out to a much wider audience. Like, you would have been able to go to like your local bar and just seen that there. Like, kind of what happened with that one Evo that did that on ESPN. But, this would have been on a much more regular basis with all these things. And not to mention just the money that you would have made off these circuits would have been able to at least support a lot more players pursuing this full time, especially if you could get more sponsorships in there. Then those people could even support more players and more content creators to do these type of things and actually do this as a job and not really just a hobby. Like somebody like myself, I kind of have to consider this a hobby just because realistically, I'm not going to grow to a point where I'm going to be like solely profitable off of just doing Smash. Like with other things, I think it's possible. Smash, I could maybe get to a point, but I wouldn't make money just solely off of going to Smash tournaments. I would have to do it strictly off of content creation here, Patreon, merchandise, etc., things like that. That's really the only way I could ever support myself with Smash. Not to mention, there's a lot of things that you don't get by doing this type of job, especially in America, where like health insurance and all that stuff, where you need realistically, you need a company or you need a stable income to really get those things, to make sure you can be taken care in that respect. And somebody like myself, that's something that I need. Um, so yeah, basically Nintendo has done everything they can to stop broadcasting rights of people to just show this game off at high level capacity. So not only just on Twitch, but on national television as well, with companies that were paying the entire cost to help finance these things, and they would still give Nintendo ownership of the circuits themselves without Nintendo putting any money down at all, which is ridiculous. Any events that Nintendo did sponsor in terms of the grassroots ones, they didn't pay any money to the TOs. The most that they ever did was give setups to certain events, but like not the entire of them, just a little bit, and then some discounts on getting setups as well. And then they also got free floor space on the venues themselves, where most vendors would be paying for that as well. So basically, Nintendo came in, chopped off a lot of like money from all these different TOs and organizers out there, and basically gave them nothing. They basically just gave them like free advertisement, legitimacy to the event itself, so that can attract sponsors. And by them sponsoring, you basically can guarantee a cease and desist is just not going to happen at that point. But unfortunately, as I mentioned with Project M, they're very negative to that. With Slippy, they've been very negative to that. And like rollback netcode Slippy, if you're unfamiliar with Slippy, it's just a mod that like it doesn't really affect the game. It just does a lot of quality of life things. Like it can save replays. It can broadcast the game in HD, which has really been a very, very useful tool. With us, it can also gather statistics. So whenever you're watching any stream and you see the statistics of like the openings, the move that killed the most often, all that stuff, that's all thanks to Slippy. And like, does not mod the game at all in like a gameplay capacity or in content capacity. It literally just gathers data and allows you to stream it in the highest quality possible, and that's it. And they had an issue with that, so a lot of things not good. Not to mention there was UCF, the Universal Control Fix, and that was another thing that was going to help to make like GameCube controllers like just more consistent across the board too. And it was something that a lot of people liked, but there's always memes about it too, specifically from none. So yeah, that's kind of just a history of what they've done. They prevented the scene from growing, and they prevented the scene from getting a huge injection of money to add way more legitimacy to the esport itself. And it's not like that Smash has been a small esport with like no numbers or anything like that. We have consistently been among the highest ratings in terms of viewership on Twitch for years at this point. Like we're pretty much in the top 10 at all points, in terms of like when like serious events are happening and all that stuff. And not to mention, it's just like a lot of names just became astronomically huge just from being here. Like, Mewtwo King, obviously. Mango's another one of those. Unfortunately, Smash 4 people kind of got canceled. But the one that's kind of in a better light, Nairo, he got really big from this too. And, that's all thanks to Smash and just the publicity that thing had out there as well. But yeah, like, those people that made careers out of it, it's like they had to go to something else. They couldn't just play Smash and just be all okay with it. Like, Nairo's example, he had to go to streaming and all that stuff. And with a lot of other ones, just find avenues of revenue through like YouTube, hopefully their sponsorships, their Patreon and all that stuff. And really that's the only way they can support themselves. But, when you look at something like the Capcom Pro Tour, the Tekken World Tour, not only are their sponsors able to help out more with that, but because the developers are actively in there paying money to all these different pop bonuses, and the payouts go a lot further than just like, the top 3 and all that stuff. People are able to make more steady incomes off of that, and not to mention it's not also subsidized by what they make off of Twitch, and if they have a YouTube channel, that as well. So if we had that system in place, I would say that we would definitely have one of the absolute largest bases out there, with a lot of people just having a nice steady income off of just playing this game. And it's not like it's because Nintendo lacks resources to contribute to all of this that they can't do it. It's just that they choose not to, and they choose to be antagonistic about it too. With all of these examples that I just talked about, literally Nintendo was not fronting any cost at all for that. This was basically free advertising being given to them without them even contributing to the pop bonuses as well. And it would have just been like a giant marketing machine for them. But they chose to say no to that, and they chose to kill a lot of people's chances of livelihoods through all this as well. In particular, let's go to the recent times now with the big house and how that has been handled. So what I expect happened is that as Jungle Guy kind of alliterated to this as well. Is Big House is one of the big tournaments for the Smash scene in general, and it's been sponsored by Nintendo. I think he said for like about 4 years now, so a pretty long time at this point. It's very established, and obviously due to COVID-19, they had to cancel their in-person event, which was like about two months before it was going to happen. So once that happened, obviously if you're going to do Melee, you need to do it through Slippy. If you use any other means at this point, it's just not going to be worth it. And if you're going to play Melee online, that's honestly the only thing you can do. Like, you would be using Dolphin Emulator in order to play this game online. And with the statement that Nintendo came out with, unfortunately, it was just kind of flat out false with the information they presented. Like they said, for you to play this, you are required to have an illegal copy of the game, and that's just not true. While there might be people there that are using an illegal ROM to play it, playing an emulated game is completely legal. So the use of Slippy there, perfectly legal, and you are able to play your ROMs on an emulator as well. That's 100% legal as well. And to make a ROM for Melee, it is actually extremely simple. As long as you have a Wii and you have a USB stick, you can make an ISO of your Melee disc. The only contingency with Slippy in this case is that you do need to make sure you have the player's choice version of that, as if you have the regular one without the player's choice, that's 1.0, you need 1.02 in order to do it. So that's kind of the main caveat with that. So if you don't have that one, then technically you couldn't play it. But if you own the game, it's still not legal to do it. If you downloaded an ISO, you do need to create your own ISO in order to do it. But yeah, so with that saying that you need an illegal game to do this, that's just not true. So while they could have just said hey, we have this and we don't want you guys to stream this game and all that stuff, they're perfectly within their legal right to do that. They have full capability to do that. What they have done is not illegal or not within their ability to do this. Technically on paper, it's all perfectly fine. But what they end up doing and what they're saying with this is what is really, really scummy about this. So going back to Juggle Guy running this event, so obviously COVID has happened. You're not going to host in-person tournaments, so you're going to do this online, and you're going to use the best quality online for this, which is going to be through Slippy. And what they said is, no, you're not allowed to play this game, and you're not allowed to do this in a very safe way. We want to prevent you from doing this because it does not follow our rules. And it's not like they even offer a solution for you to play this game online in a different manner. It's not like they have a Melee HD coming out with online, and especially now with rollback. If this came out, it would have probably input delay natively, plus whatever terrible online service that they already use for Smash Ultimate would probably be there, and that would be unplayable Melee. You wouldn't even want to touch it, where Slippy is basically your kind of de facto option there. But if they had that, then there's kind of more of a reason to do that. But not only did they cancel Melee, but they also canceled the Smash Ultimate tournament that they were going to host there too. So just because they did this, they just said you are not allowed to host your event. And basically, Jungle Guy has been working on the Big House for a while. I think this was Big House 10 is what this one was supposed to be. And they said, your livelihood that you have put all your heart and soul into to make this event, we don't want you to do any of this. We don't want you to do your passion project. We don't want you to make money off of this. We want you to suffer. That's basically what they are saying by just flat out canceling it like this. It's just inhumane, it's disrespectful, and it's just it just does not care about the conditions that people are in at this moment. As I mentioned, he makes his livelihood out of it, and all the people that participated, they make their livelihood out of it too. While not everybody participating in it may be making a lot of money off the stream, sometimes them entering big tournaments and getting that top 8 or just having highlighted clips might be the whole Kickstarter for them having an entire stream career. A lot of people have made decent social media impacts just for how well they've done through these online tournaments. One example that I would point to is Kirby Kid. After he was doing really, really good in a lot of online events, his Twitter kind of exploded from there, and his Twitch stream also got a lot bigger from that too. So saying that there's no monetary value to all these people by canceling these events, Like it doesn't really impact anything at all. That's completely false. Like it not only does it affect the TO's lives, but it does affect the players' lives too, and then even casters that were probably going to be paid out for helping commentate these events. But maybe because it's a special case with COVID, maybe they weren't going to be paid. That's the commentator's life for you. Speaking from experience there. So, and the thing too that's kind of dangerous about this is if we set the precedent that they're able to step in and cancel any of these online events, this is going to be a miserable COVID. And not only that, Slippy itself, if they try to do like any cease and desist things with that, that's just frankly awful. Somebody that literally quit their job to make this game be playable in an offline form, in an online form that was, that works. Like that's something that like is better than most online out there, like is a million times better than what you can get with Smash Ultimate. So like because of this, like just players growth in Melee has just kind of been exponential. Like if you saw Smash Summit 10, those sets were basically as hype as watching them offline there. Like it's insane, the level of growth and the level of execution that you can see. Like Melee is a high input execution game, and the type of stuff that people were able to perform in an online environment in there was insane to see. Like it's just something that you wouldn't even get to see with Ultimate with their like version of online as well, just because of like the input delay with that, and there's just certain reactions that you can't do that Slippy allows you to do with all that stuff as well. So just to cancel that, just say, hey, you can't make money off of this anymore after you've just sank everything into this. And the other thing too is, as I mentioned, Slippy is an emulator. It is not a mod of a game. It is strictly an emulator. And as long as you have a copy of Melee, you can play Melee in a different way. And that's it. It's literally just an emulator saying we're playing the game. It does do one mod at the moment, which is it does freeze PS2, but the only reason why it's doing that at the moment is because it's a limitation of the software itself in terms of doing it over rollback netcode. But like other than that, it's not changing any of the textures. It's not adding anything to the game that isn't already there. It's just playing the game and using different connections to get it. And that's all it's doing. So like, I don't even think they could throw a cease and desist at it. And as I mentioned before, Project M actually had no cease and desist sent to it at all. It was just that, hey, stop supporting this game at your event because we don't want to see it anymore. And I'm not sure if that's like what discouraged the PMD dev team from disbanding. Kind of seems like that's what it was. But, hopefully with all this stuff that, kind of to just realize like, Nintendo's just not going to support us at this point to give us a proper competitive scene. I do hope more events are going to bring Project M back and, just kind of stick it to Nintendo at this point. Because like if they're not going to come out, they're not going to support our events, they're not going to give us money and actively like prevent us from growing, then quite frankly at that point we really don't need them there. Obviously, of course, they are still the rights holder, so they are still going to be in charge of doing the cease and desist, the DMCAs, and allowing you to run your events and stream it. But at that point, they're basically killing their own image and their own brand. And at a certain point, there's even a point where Nintendo can't get away with it. We kind of saw that with Evo, but Nintendo is in a weaker state. They're in a much stronger state now, so I do expect them to kind of not really budge on this. But we'll have to see. One event that I do recommend all of you guys to pay attention to is Ludwig's tournament that he's hosting. He's hosting a charity event. I believe it's raised like $50,000 at the moment. And, more and more money it raises, Nintendo's going to be saying no to charity. And the other thing, too, is that he says every single time Nintendo sends him a DMCA, he's going to announce a charity event for the next month and the next month after that. So Super Chad moves over there. That's the type of organization that we like to see, and that's the type of movement and things that we should be supporting as a scene in general. If we don't support the Smash collective as a whole now, it's going to be very hard for us to move forward. And also to like kind of give you an idea of how weird of a situation this is, a bunch of people started working on mods for Guilty Gear, and the old ones of that are Axon Core. And what happened with that was Arc System Works took notice of that. They hired the people that were making this rollback netcode for that old Guilty Gear game, and then they implemented it into the official Steam release of Guilty Gear, and now there's a lot more people playing Guilty Gear with rollback netcode, and everyone's loving it. So that's them working with the mods and actively promoting the scene right there, and them making money not off of only sales of an old game now, but just like a whole revitalization project, and even showing them a blueprint of how to make their games better for the future. Because particularly with Guilty Gear Strive, we know they're going to be implementing rollback netcode into that game. So I'm really looking forward to see how they're doing that. That's showing embracing the community, helping it foster, and just like working with the fans to help grow the player base. That's great stuff. Um, SNK. If you guys are familiar with Fightcade, that is the arcade emulator that's used to play a lot of old Capcom games, a lot of old SNK games, and all that stuff. And literally, SNK will work with people to host tournaments for their old fighting games on Fightcade because it provides the best online experience possible. So while they sell things like the Samurai Showdown collection and all that stuff, a lot of people are still going to buy those games, but when they want to play the best online, they'll go to Fightcade and do that. And SNK will fully embrace that. They want to see people play this at the highest level. And, when most people see them playing, hey, they're playing Samurai Showdown, they're probably going to go through, Amazon Store Place, or they're going to go through Steam and buy these games from there so that way they can play it themselves. And so that kind of boosts sales for them, and that puts more eyes on the game, and it just overall boosts everybody's enjoyment of the things that they have to offer. Where in this case with Nintendo, not only are they actively disrupting tournaments from happening, they're disrupting people's livelihoods with it too. And not only are they denying the positive, free marketing that they get from this, but they're actively giving themselves bad PR, and they're actively ruining people's careers that could get into basically becoming a free advertisement for life that they would have to pay no money to in order to help promote their game. And not only that, they're showing so much support for this old game that they have the source code for this. This wouldn't be a hard thing for them to just actively kind of capitalize on, repackage and sell and do all these different things with. They just leave it alone. They ignore it, and they've left it on the GameCube this entire time. And they, with the guy that I forgot his name, but the guy that programmed Slippy and all that stuff, he's created this full rollback version of Melee Netplay, and why not hire him to help make an official release for Switch so that way you can sell it to everybody? Things like that, business decisions that make absolutely no sense. They just want a part of it. And even that too, it's even if you get people nostalgic for Smash and it's hard to get Melee, they'll probably pick up Ultimate in that case. It can really only help to grow the scene. That's kind of the way that it works. So, all those things are very disappointing to see. I'm definitely very angry to see all that because, this is when I was getting into this is when I got into Smash, especially with the Project M stuff. So that's really close to my heart, and knowing exactly how that all went down and how much I really wanted to get into the Project M scene and see that thing grow, and just seeing how that got taken out for nothing, it's depressing to see. And, I really do hope that a lot of us are going to band together and, do everything that we can to help really support the grassroots for it, because that's all we can really do at the moment. So going forward with this channel, I'm honestly in a very weird position. On one hand, you have takes like Hungrybox, where he says, as long as we don't let this community die, Nintendo can't kill it. And, I do kind of agree with that philosophy too. It's kind of just say hey, we're here to stay. We're not really going anywhere, and you really should support us. I think that's an admirable thing to take, but I don't think Nintendo's ever going to give into that. Just kind of as the company that they are throughout the decades, I don't think that's possible, and especially without Satoru Iwata. If you watch Max's video on the whole debacle, he had a really nice thing. It's don't ever demonize the players for loving the game. It was something along the lines of that, and that's basically what they're doing as a company right now. So that type of guidance, sorely missed from Iwata. Which honestly, that might have been one of the reasons why EVO 2013 even happened to begin with. So, I'm uploading all the last critiques that I just did on Monday. So those will be up there, and I'm never going to abandon the aesthetics of Duck Hunt. That's always going to be a part of this channel. But it's going forward, how much Nintendo content I want to make on here. It makes it hard because it's I don't want to tell you guys to go out and support this company. I really don't. But, you guys are here because I did things that this company has produced. And those are still things that I hold very dear to my heart. And those are things that are important to me. So it's those are things that I'm going to keep in my life still. I'm not going to throw out my memories just because, they did some very scummy stuff. And, I've already bought a lot of these things too. So it's not I can return it and stick it to Nintendo. Like I literally would do nothing. um, so it's weird. It's like part of me wants to get into Melee now, do more things with Slippy and all that stuff, just because you know, I enjoy playing Melee a lot. I've never really gotten good at the game. This might be the time for me to do that. But you know, I do want to see the Duck Hunt base grow, and I do want to support the scene in that respect. Like, I want to support all of you guys. You know, if you love playing Ultimate, I love playing Ultimate too. I still want to support that, but I don't want to support Nintendo. So it's strange. So for the time being, I think I'm going to continue working more on like at least the Duck Hunt projects. Like, I think I want to finish the advice that I want to do for the advanced tips and the expert tips for Duck Hunt, and maybe some other niche things. I'm going to continue to do the match critique streams. Just obviously, if this is your form of coping, just like playing like Smash Ultimate and all that stuff, I don't want to take that away from you, and I want to help you grow for that. So those streams are going to continue to happen. It's just that in terms of what I plan to do with the rest of this channel, that's going to remain to be seen. Probably I'll focus a little bit more on the theme park stuff because I really want to do more with that. And I might focus more on other games just because there are all these other games that I've never gotten to. But, you know, if you guys are here for me, you'll stick it out and you'll kind of see what happens with this. But regardless, you know, the future's unwritten and anything can happen. And, you know, we might get some very poggers things out of this. That's all we can hope for. Hope for the best. And that's what I'm going to be doing for now. But I'll do my best to keep supporting you guys through this entire debacle. I'll be here to make sure that you guys suck a little bit less every single Monday. And we'll just see where we go from there. So with all that said, hopefully you guys are coping with the news well. I hope you guys are going to continue to fight. Throw that hashtag around. Please save Smash and all that stuff. And until then, take care of yourselves until the next one.